I had never felt so betrayed and furious in my own home. The smell of fresh coffee didn't comfort me this time, nor did the sunlight streaming through the curtains. My husband's mistress, yes, her, had moved into our guest room while he was away on a business trip. I could hear her humming softly, the sound like a mocking echo in the hallways of the house I had built with my own hands. I paused at the doorway, hand on the frame, taking in the sight of her casually tossing her suitcase onto the bed as if she had every right to be there. I wanted to scream, to throw her out, but I stopped myself. My anger needed to be controlled. It needed to be deliciously precise. I sat in the kitchen with a cold cup of coffee, plotting. She thought she had won, thinking I would sit quietly while she enjoyed my home. But she didn't know me. She didn't know that I could play the long game, that I could turn her confidence into her undoing. By the time I went to bed that night, I already had a plan forming. I would escalate, but carefully. I would make her realize that this house wasn't hers, that the person she had underestimated had far more power than she imagined. And the next day, I would act. I woke up before sunrise, the soft glow of morning light spilling across the living room, where everything still smelled faintly of her perfume. My stomach churned with anticipation. Today would be the day I made her realize she was trespassing in more ways than one. I poured a cup of coffee, inhaling the rich aroma, and let my mind race with possibilities. But this wasn't just about revenge. It had to be clever, subtle, and, most importantly, unforgettable. I remembered the phone call from a few weeks ago, when she casually mentioned her lawyer friend who was so charming, so persuasive, he can get anyone whatever they want. I smiled, the idea forming fully now. If she wanted a power move, I could give her one, but with a twist. By mid-morning, she was lounging in the guest room, scrolling through her phone, unaware of the storm I was about to bring into her carefully curated world. I knocked lightly on the door. "Can we talk?" I asked, keeping my voice calm, measured, as if nothing was wrong. She looked up, a sly smile spreading across her face, confident in her victory. "I brought someone," she said, practically floating with triumph. "You'll see. He'll make sure you have no reason to kick me out. Trust me." I raised an eyebrow, suppressing a laugh. "Oh, really? Bring him in," I said. And that's when she opened the door to reveal him, the lawyer she had spoken of, the man who had always been quietly in love with me behind the scenes, who had respected boundaries while silently watching her schemes unfold. He paused, eyes locking on mine. A flicker of recognition, concern, and something deeper passed between us. I smiled faintly. He knew exactly who I was, and he knew exactly what had to happen. She stepped aside, thinking she was orchestrating the perfect power play. "He'll make sure everything stays comfortable for me," she said, tone dripping with superiority. He nodded politely, voice calm, professional, but I could see it in his eyes. He had no intention of being her pawn. "Of course," he said softly, then glanced at me with an unspoken question. "Shall we?" That was all the confirmation I needed. Today, things would get worse for her, and beautifully so. By lunchtime, she had no idea that the very man she brought to secure her position was about to flip the game entirely, siding quietly, loyally, with me. Every move, every word he said was carefully designed to show her that she was not the one in control. By the time the day ended, she was fuming, frustrated, and utterly powerless. My coffee tasted sweeter than ever as I watched her realize she had overplayed her hand, and the lawyer, standing quietly by my side, smiled at me, not with smugness, but with something warmer, something that hinted at all the possibilities yet to come. The next morning I woke with a clear sense of purpose. The house felt alive, humming with anticipation, as if it knew today would tip the scales completely. I moved through the kitchen, the smell of brewing coffee mingling with the faint scent of her perfume still lingering from the guest room. I could hear her stirring upstairs, completely unaware that the tide had already turned against her. The lawyer was already seated at the kitchen table, reviewing some paperwork I had carefully planted the night before. He looked up as I entered, his eyes locking with mine. No words were needed. He had understood everything the moment he walked through the door. She had underestimated me, and together we would ensure she felt that weight. I approached the guest room door with deliberate steps, letting the floorboards creak underfoot. She looked up at me, feigning confidence, but I could see the first cracks forming in her carefully constructed facade. "What is it?" she asked, tone sharp, defensive. I smiled, calm and cool. "I thought it would be nice if we all had breakfast together," I said. "Including your friend here." Her eyes flicked to the lawyer, then back to me, suspicion coloring her expression. "Why would he—" He stood, hands in his pockets, with a casual authority that contradicted the intensity of his presence. "I'm here to help facilitate a smooth resolution," he said, voice even, polite. But each word subtly undermined her sense of security. "I think it's in everyone's best interest that we clarify boundaries." She froze. "Boundaries?" Her voice trembled slightly, a crack appearing in her armor for the first time. "Yes," I said, placing a hand on the back of a chair, feeling the familiar warmth of my home beneath my fingers. "Boundaries you've clearly ignored. Let's make things very clear, starting now." What followed was subtle, surgical, tiny adjustments, casual comments, gentle questions that exposed her overconfidence. He confirmed everything with calm authority, never raising his voice, never appearing to challenge her directly. Yet every word, every gesture made her defensive, anxious, aware that she had lost the ground she thought she owned. By mid-afternoon, she was a whirlwind of frustration. She flitted from room to room trying to assert dominance, but every attempt was quietly neutralized. I watched from the living room, sipping coffee, smelling the faint aroma of freshly polished wood and cinnamon from a candle I had lit earlier. Her anger was almost tangible, a storm contained within our walls, while I felt a quiet triumph wash over me. At one point, she confronted him directly. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, voice rising slightly. He met her gaze steadily, calm and deliberate. "Because she deserves respect, and you've forgotten yours," he said softly, glancing at me with a warmth she could never reach. "Some lessons need to be experienced." She stormed out of the room, muttering under her breath, defeated but unaware of the silent alliance forming against her. I watched the door close behind her and exhaled, the lawyer's quiet presence a reminder that I was never alone in this. For the first time, I felt something else stirring alongside triumph, an unspoken connection, a warmth that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with loyalty, understanding, and a shared respect that had been years in the making. By evening, she was fuming in the guest room, powerless, while we sat quietly in the living room, the air fragrant with candlelight and the faint trace of coffee. The game was won, the house was secure, and the bond forming between us, the lawyer and me, felt unstoppable, natural, undeniable. The morning after her meltdown, the house felt different, lighter, freed from her intrusion. I moved through the rooms with a quiet satisfaction, savoring the familiar smells of polished wood and fresh linens. But it wasn't just the house that felt restored. There was a new energy in the air, one I hadn't anticipated. The lawyer was in the study, carefully arranging some papers I had left for him, but he looked up when I entered. His eyes met mine, steady and warm, and for a moment the past, the tension, the subtle games, all melted away. There was something unspoken there, something that had been simmering quietly for years, the loyalty, the quiet admiration, the bond that grew stronger in the shadows of others' chaos. "Good morning," I said softly, letting my tone carry both relief and amusement. "Good morning," he replied, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "I think our friend upstairs has learned her lesson." I laughed quietly, the sound low and intimate. "You made sure she did, didn't you?" He shrugged, casual but deliberate. "I just reminded her where the real power lies." His eyes lingered on mine a moment longer, and I felt a warmth spread through me, an acknowledgement of all the unspoken moments between us. The dinners I had shared with him as a client, the quiet conversations, the subtle glances when no one else was watching. As the day passed, we worked together seamlessly, tidying the house, arranging the rooms, reclaiming our space from the chaos she had brought. There was something exhilarating about it, not just restoring order, but sharing the triumph with someone who had always been quietly on my side. At one point he paused, leaning slightly against the doorway of the kitchen, and asked softly, "Do you ever think about what could have been if things had been different?" I felt my heart skip. All the time, I admitted. But what matters is now, what we do today, how we reclaim what's ours together. He smiled then, a slow, deliberate smile, and I felt something shift. The professional distance melted, replaced by something warmer, something electric yet comforting. In that moment, I realized that the lawyer, the man I had once only seen in the shadows of my life, was now at the center of it. Not because of schemes or manipulation, but because he had always cared, quietly, steadfastly, and he had just proven it again. By evening, we were sitting together in the living room, the soft glow of the sunset filtering through the curtains. The house was finally ours, secure and safe, the mistress's presence erased from our lives. And yet, it wasn't just the house that felt reclaimed. It was my heart, my trust, my sense of connection. I glanced at him, catching the faintest hesitation before he looked away, and I knew we were both thinking the same thing. The game had ended. The house was ours, and now, maybe finally, we could explore what had always been there, quietly waiting for the right moment to emerge. The next morning, the house felt unusually quiet, almost conspiratorial, as if it knew what was about to happen. The mistress had fled in frustration the night before, leaving behind a faint scent of her perfume that I quickly erased with lavender and lemon oil. The sunlight streamed through the windows, reflecting off the polished floors, creating golden patterns that danced like a private celebration. I found him in the kitchen, sipping coffee, reviewing some legal notes for the last bit of paperwork she had tried to complicate. He looked up and our eyes met. There was an unspoken acknowledgement, a spark that had been simmering since the day she moved in. "I think we make a good team," he said softly, leaning casually against the counter. His tone was easy, but the heat in his gaze gave away the emotion he had kept buried all this time. I smiled, feeling my chest warm. "Yeah, a very good team." We moved through the house together, finishing the small details she had tried to disrupt, rearranging the guest room, double-checking locks, restoring furniture to its rightful place. Every brush of his hand against mine felt electric, and I could sense his closeness, not just in space, but in loyalty and unspoken emotion. When he paused in the living room to hand me a stack of papers, our fingers brushed, and the contact lingered a moment longer than necessary. My heart jumped. "You've always cared more than I realized," I said quietly. He looked into my eyes, voice low and sincere. "I have, more than I should have let you see. But watching her move in, seeing what she was doing to you, it made me realize I couldn't stay silent anymore. I'll do anything to protect you, to protect your home, and, I suppose, to finally show you how I feel." I swallowed, the weight of the past and the tension of the present converging. "You don't have to say more. I already feel it. And I think I've felt it for a long time too." The afternoon faded into evening, and the atmosphere in the house changed. It wasn't just safe anymore, it was intimate, charged, alive. We laughed over trivial things, shared small touches, lingering glances, and moments where neither of us had to explain ourselves. For the first time, I felt the full scope of trust, safety, and attraction all at once. By the time the sun dipped behind the horizon, we were sitting together on the couch, shoulders brushing, hearts quietly aligned. The house was ours again, and for the first time, I realized something important. The lawyer wasn't just an ally in strategy. He could be something far more significant in life. Someone who had been there all along, patiently, waiting for the right moment to step forward. And in that quiet, shared warmth, I felt the promise of what could come. Love, respect, and partnership, built not from deception or games, but from loyalty, trust, and the unspoken understanding that we were stronger together. The following morning, the house felt completely ours. The air was lighter, freer, and every corner seemed to hum with satisfaction. I moved through the rooms with a sense of ownership, not just of the space, but of the life and love that had quietly settled back in. The mistress was gone. The tension dissolved, and yet something far more significant had taken root. The bond between me and the lawyer, built on trust, loyalty, and years of unspoken connection. He appeared in the kitchen as I poured coffee, carrying a small tray with 2 cups. "I thought you might like a proper breakfast this morning," he said softly, placing the tray down in front of me. The warmth of the gesture, the careful attention in his eyes sent a ripple through me. "Thank you," I said, smiling. "It's nice, normal, peaceful. I think we've earned it." He leaned against the counter, casual but undeniably present. "We have, and I'm not going anywhere. Not from this house, not from you." I felt my pulse quicken. There was no hesitation in his voice, no ambiguity, just certainty. And for the first time, I allowed myself to lean into that certainty, to acknowledge that the man who had always been there quietly, faithfully, could now step fully into my life. We spent the day together, moving through the house, restoring order, and reclaiming every corner that had been tainted by her presence. But this time, it wasn't about strategy or revenge. It was about partnership. Every glance, every touch, every shared smile reinforced the fact that we were on the same side, building something stronger than just a home, a shared life. By late afternoon, we found ourselves sitting on the porch, watching the sunset spill gold and pink across the neighborhood. The breeze carried the faint scent of lavender from the candles I had burned, and the world outside seemed quiet, almost reverent. He turned to me, his hand brushing against mine. "I've always admired you," he said, voice low and earnest. "Through all of it, I've waited for the right moment. And now, I hope we can start something real." I smiled, feeling a swell of emotion I hadn't allowed myself in years. "I think we can, and I think I've been waiting for it too." He closed the distance, our hands entwining naturally, and for the first time, the house didn't just feel like my sanctuary. It felt like the place where our story truly began. No more games, no more intrusions, no more shadows. Just us, together, in a home reclaimed and hearts aligned. As the sky darkened and stars began to sparkle overhead, I realized something profound. The drama, the betrayal, the clever moves, they all led to this. To love, loyalty, and the kind of happiness that only comes when the right person has always been waiting patiently by your side. The morning light spilled gently into the house, warm and golden, as if the world itself was celebrating the peace we had reclaimed. The guest room remained empty, a silent reminder of past chaos, while the rest of the house thrummed with life. The familiar creaks of the floorboards, the faint scent of coffee and lavender, the soft hum of a home truly ours. I found him in the living room, seated comfortably with a book, yet glancing up every so often with that steady, quiet warmth that had captured my heart. When he saw me, his face lit up with a smile that made my chest tighten. "Good morning," he said, voice soft, but filled with certainty. "I think we've finally settled everything." I nodded, a sense of calm satisfaction washing over me. "Yes, everything and everyone who tried to disrupt our lives has left, and this home feels like it should, like it belongs to us again." He set his book aside and stood, walking toward me. Our eyes met. The tension, the longing, the connection we had cultivated over these past days now fully acknowledged. He took my hand, and it felt natural, complete, as if it had always belonged there. "I've waited a long time for this," he said quietly. "Not just to protect you, but to be with you. I want to be more than just the man who fixes problems. I want to be the one who stands by your side every day." I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes, not from sadness, but from relief, joy, and the sheer rightness of it all. "And I've been waiting for you too," I admitted. "I just didn't realize how much until now." He smiled, leaning closer, his hand gently brushing my cheek. "Then let's not waste another moment." We stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the house around us quiet, and peaceful. For the first time in months, or maybe years, I felt completely at home, not just in the walls and rooms I had fought to reclaim, but in the warmth, loyalty, and love of the man who had always been there, patiently waiting for the right moment to step into my life. The sun set outside, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, as if the world itself was celebrating this new beginning. Our laughter mingled, soft and easy, filling the house in a way no perfume or guest ever could. And as night fell, I realized the truth. The betrayal, the schemes, the clever plans, it had all led to this moment. I had reclaimed my home, my dignity, and my happiness. And I had found love where it had always been, quietly waiting, patient and unwavering, ready to become something extraordinary. The house and our hearts were finally completely ours.